social, local, and SEO. Once again, this is Ben Kinney from the pig farming town of Bellingham, Washington. Today, this is a Ben Kinney production. The only reason we say that is so you can't blame anybody else for anything inappropriate I might say. If you need to get a hold of me at any time, I just ask that you hit me up on Twitter at Ben Kinney. And if you guys are there right now, do me a favor and just type something in on Twitter so I know that you guys are there, and we promise to follow you back. Now, special thanks to our one free sponsor. It pays us nothing but always supports us, is Dan at Happy Grasshopper, for making these calls happen and help promoting it to so many of the agents across the nation. And Dan created a special offer for you guys at happygrasshopper.com/big idea. Check it out. Dan's made me a lot of money over the years, and he's just an amazing guy. So, of course, these calls are brought to you by Brivity, and we're going to send you out some special offers and some opportunities to do demos, to check out our valuation sites. How do you generate some listing leads, and how do you get your business organized with the Brivity tool? They'll send it out to you. We're going to get down to the meat and potatoes today. Search me, social, local, and SEO. But what you guys want to know is who I'm talking to today. And I'd like to welcome, for the first time on our calls, Mr. Rand Fishkin. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you, Ben. In fact, I not only chatted to you in the chat box, I just sent you a tweet, too.
Oh, wow. Wow, we are doubling here. I'm so excited. And I got a tweet from a guy that has over 200,000 people following him. You're like Britney Spears to me. You are the Britney Spears of technology, my friend.
Wow, that's I think I should not be flattered at all.
No, it's awkward. It's only going to get more awkward from here. You are in the amazing sunny city of Seattle, Washington. Isn't that correct?
Sunny 80 days out of the year. That's right.
So before we talk about what you've built, and you built an amazing company, and talk about Moz, etc., and your knowledge, what I want to talk about, and you can see my screen, correct?
Yes, I can.
I want to get to know you personally.
I don't look like that anymore, though. I have this ridiculous mustache and a crazy haircut, and my beard's a little thicker, but
yeah. And
I'm about 5 years older. But
my staff is swooning over you at the moment. Actually. It's pretty,
well, tell them
that
guy doesn't exist anymore. It's all gray hairs now.
Well, I want to get to know you, my friend, and so tell us just a little bit about your history, and before you're done telling us, make sure you tell us why you drink pink milk.
Okay. Well, let's see. I don't drink pink milk. Except for that one time. Damn it. Right. Yes. Well, it's possible that I might not have done laundry properly and got a little confused with the whole situation of boxers and socks, and so my wife put some strawberry dye in my milk, and so it was pink, and therefore I had to
teach you a lesson.
Yeah, you can read all about it on everywheres.com. That's her travel blog.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. So tell us about you personally.
Yeah, that out of the way. So let's see. In 2001, I dropped out of college, started doing web design and development with my mom, who had been running a marketing company for a long time, kind of old school marketing company, and building websites didn't go so well from about 2001 to 2004 or 5. We went pretty deeply into debt. We did not have a lot of success with clients, but at the end of 2004, I had been getting into the SEO field for a year or two, and I started this blog called SEOmoz.org. And SEO Moz, which today is called Moz, we rebranded a couple of years ago. SEO Moz, had just got a lot of traction. I think by writing about what I was learning in the SEO field, and by trying to help other folks understand what was a very complex and hard to tackle technical field at the time. We grew a lot of traffic, so I got invited to speak at many conferences and had some nice press. And in 2007, beginning of 2007, we were able to pay off all of our debt, which was a big relief. It was almost $500,000, by the way, in debt. We owed like $150K, and then we stopped being able to make those minimum payments on the credit cards. That pretty much sucked. But 2007, we paid that off, and we also launched our first, I guess what you call software subscription. Um, so we had a few tools that we had built for ourselves to help our consulting clients, and we made those available to anyone who wanted to, at the time, PayPal us. I think it was $29 a month. And that took off and started doing pretty well. And so in 2000, at the end of 2007, we got some investment from a couple of VCs. Michelle Goldberg from Munition Partners and a private investment firm called Curious Office here in Seattle raised $1.1 million. And yeah, the software side of the business has been kind of driving us in growing ever since. And I took on the CEO role at that time when we got funding in 2007, and held that position until January of this year, when I stepped down from the CEO role and promoted our longtime Chief Operating Officer, Sarah Bird, to be Moz's CEO. And so these days I get to do a lot of things I love to do, and I don't have to do too many of the things that I don't love to do. So I work a lot with product and engineering at Moz, and I do a lot of marketing and speaking and evangelism out in the world. That's pretty much me in a nutshell.
So I got to meet you because a friend of mine, his name's Eric Badgley. He's on the call with us right now. Eric, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
So Eric went down to one of your events and asked you if you would do a webinar with us. So thank you, Eric, for doing that. And Eric's in the background. He'll probably ask us some questions, and we'll talk to him towards the end of the call. But I read a lot about you. You've done talks to the United Nations, to some pretty amazing groups of individuals. Was all this information that you have self-taught?
Pretty much entirely. I mean, well, when you say self-taught, I'm going to assume that you mean not learned in a classroom, and that would
For sure,
certainly
yeah.
be correct.
Yeah.
I've had phenomenal teachers and mentors, and a whole industry of people helping me out over the years. And so, I wouldn't say I did it all myself, but certainly none of it in a classroom.
I often say that the only good original ideas I have are the ones that I screwed up. Everything else is the things I borrowed from somebody else.
But I think that's a great way of putting it, Ben. I love that. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, but it's what's mine is yours, my friend. So today we have all these real estate agents in the nation and in Canada that are watching this call, and we'll have tens of thousands of agents look at this, and we want to just shake you upside down and see what oozes out of your ears.
Okay.
What is applicable to our industry. And I went through and I broke it up in 4 topics. Local, like local SEO, and how do we have a presence online, but locally. Social, through the social media, million different options we have.
Yep.
And content, what consumers are looking for, and also search engine optimizations. And what I thought we'd start with would be local. So let's assume we don't know anything, and
Okay.
kind of start us from, what did I just say?
Okay. You don't know anything, and you want to know how local search essentially can help real estate agents.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for rephrasing something that makes sense.
All right.
My
All right.
audience will be happy that the first time something made sense out of my mouth.
So local is actually an extremely hot space right now, and the reason is pretty clear. So as consumers are shifting to mobile devices and specifically smart mobile devices on which they could perform searches, the share of searches that are mobile is growing dramatically. So on desktop search, we're talking about maybe 6 billion or so searches a day. Sorry, on Google as a whole, we're talking about 6 billion searches per day, and almost half of those are on mobile devices. And a huge number of those, a big percent of those, probably somewhere in the 40 to 50% range of mobile searches have a local intent behind them, right? Someone is trying to find something nearby to them, and that typically means a local business. So as a real estate agent, it's very, very clear that real estate is entirely locally driven, that people who are looking for real estate because it's a transaction that we don't frequently make as consumers have very little information about that, and so searching is a huge activity. And I think Google did put together a study. It was either Google or one of the major advertising agencies put together a study that was showing the path to transaction for major transactions like cars, real estate, mortgages and refinancing, that kind of stuff. And what they showed is, there'll be 10 to 50 searches that a single consumer will perform before they make a transaction like that. And the results that they find through search very often help guide them or bias them in a direction that in a decision that they ultimately make. So being there, being able to show up in those local results when someone searches on their smartphone in a region, when they search on their desktop at home as they're doing research, or on their tablet or their laptop or what have you, that is a superpower.
So I'm going to that sassy chick on my iPhone, the one that always mouse off to me, and I'm saying, "Hey Siri, find me a plumber." And what they're doing is they're not just. Oh, it's funny. Siri just started.
I heard it.
Can't believe that happened.
Oh,
I'm saying find me a plumber, and then all of a sudden, instead of finding plumbers all over the world, she's finding me something close to me.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And mobile devices are able to use the context of where you are to, essentially discern the kinds of results that they should deliver back to you. They know, mobile devices have GPS in them. You've got all these Wi-Fi signals bouncing around. So your mobile device can say, hey, when I look for a coffee shop, they can say, oh, yeah, Rand, I can see that you're on Capitol Hill in Seattle. In fact, you're in East Capitol Hill. And so, bam, here's all the coffee shops right near you. And I think over time, what's happening is Google's getting even smarter about this, and they're saying, you know what, we've learned through Rand's behavior that he does not go to Starbucks or Tully's or Seattle's Best or any chain coffee places. So, he's one of those dirty Seattle hipsters. We better recommend an independent coffee shop to him. And that learning behavior is very, very powerful. Foursquare is actually the company, I think, on the cutting edge of that. They're already doing that kind of prediction, but I have no doubt that Google is going to catch up soon.
Well, I think, since you started into the industry, and I dropped out of college about the same time as you in 2001, and I built my business on SEO and generating real estate leads. Things have changed a lot, and the
Oh, yeah.
search results are getting so much smarter. It's almost kind of, in fact, I'm still freaked out that Siri was listening to me talk to you at that exact moment. How do agents create a presence online that would show up in these sort of local search results?
Yeah. So if you have a website, and if you don't have a website, dear God, get a website. You can basically register that site with a lot of the local aggregation services. So Google is one of the most obvious ones, right? They have Google Plus Local, and I think that's what it's still called, Google Plus Local for My Business. That is something you're going to want to set up, absolutely. And there's about 10 or 20 others. I really don't like pimping Moz's tools, but there's a free Moz tool from Moz Local that you can go to. You can plug in sort of your business name. I think you plug in your zip code and your phone number or something like that, and it'll essentially return a list of here's all the places you are listed, and here's all the places you're not yet listed. And then you can go manually take care of those, or if you want, Moz Local can do it for you for some, I think, like $89 a year or something like that. But the big point is basically there's a bunch of listing and aggregation services that pull together. That's a critical underpinning of those local results. But then on top of that, Google is using a lot of other signals, right? So links to your website, just like in classic SEO, that stuff matters. User and usage data, engagement data. If the visitors who come to your site are very engaged, they tend to spend a long time on your site, they tend to find really useful information there, they tend to be satisfied and happy with that experience, you're going to do much better. If you have a mobile responsive design, you're going to do much better, especially in the mobile results. Google's actually marking things as mobile friendly. So if you perform a search on your smartphone now, you will see those mobile friendly, that little listing next to results that are mobile friendly.
Yeah, I saw
Another
that
big
last
thing,
night. I
yeah,
saw that last
right?
night. Did that just start, or was I just blind
That's
to it?
only a couple weeks old now, I think. Yeah, so very new.
Interesting.
There's other signals too. So Google will look at the content relevance and quality, right? They'll essentially, if you search for um, homes in Capitol Hill, Seattle, they will look for websites that have pages specifically targeting homes in Capitol Hill, Seattle, and they're smart. So you don't have to call it exactly that. You can say um, Capitol Hill, Seattle real estate, and they'll know that means the same thing as homes in Capitol Hill. You can say 98122 real estate, and they know 98122 in Capitol Hill. That's a zip code inside Capitol Hill's neighborhood. Therefore, they'll pull that up. So they're getting much smarter. We don't have to be as perfect about our keyword targeting as we used to be, but we still need to do a great job of driving links, getting references and mentions about our business, getting people to our website, driving engagement and happiness, and serving them quickly and with a great user experience no matter what device they're on. So lots
Uh,
of critical elements there.
I'm not trying to. You're so humble about what you've done and about your products, but I got to tell you guys on the call, I was out there for a long time using the Moz Local tool. In fact, I used it again a couple days ago. I go in there, I type my website address, benkinney.com, home for whatever my website is, and it tells me how many local listings have already been established for that website for me, and it gives me the list. I don't know how many there are, 15 or 20 right off the bat, that you get to go check and see if you've been on those ones or not. Is that correct? Something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Ran. Anyway, so we'll send you guys out the link on the call, so you guys, after this call, go check and see how many local registrations you've already put your business on. So any
And
one-off
I did want
tricks
to
or comments
say,
about that?
yeah. One quick thing. So this is a totally free resource on Moz that David Mim, who's kind of like the local SEO expert in the space, he built Get Listed, which is what we bought and became Moz Local. That he's got a local search ranking factors. So if you're interested in like what are all the elements that can influence my rankings in the local search results, just search for local search ranking factors, and David's article, which is on the Moz website and totally free, and you don't have to put in an email or anything like that. That is an excellent resource to sort that out, and I think can be really helpful to people who are like, I want to get into the nitty gritty. I want to really understand how Google does this.
Let's we're going to get them all the resources. We'll send them out some of your articles as well, because there's just so much good content. This social space is pretty confusing out there. There's a million places for people to go, and I like that you kind of, maybe you could order them for us on
Yeah, I
what you
mean,
think
what's
is valuable
crazy
today.
is, so in real estate, I've actually talked to some real estate agents who are driving a ton of their traffic and referrals through Pinterest and Instagram. And I couldn't believe it, right? I mean, I'm familiar with Facebook and Twitter. I even, we drive a lot of traffic with LinkedIn. We're heavy users of Google Plus. Obviously, I'm a big user of Twitter and Facebook, but uh, Pinterest and Instagram, it just shocked me to hear that those were such big traffic drivers. And then it made sense, right? I spent some time talking to these folks, and this was at a conference in, I think it was either San Diego or Las Vegas, somewhere hot. And they were explaining to me basically that because they're such visual engines, and because both are actually very popular with adult women in the U.S. and adult women in the U.S. who tend to have higher than average income and resources, that that drives a lot of that early traffic and awareness about real estate. People see that these people see something on Instagram, they start following an agent, looking at the homes that agent is, photographing and that sort of thing. They start following people on Pinterest boards and seeing what kinds of architecture and layouts and ways of decorating their house that they want. And that ties back to, the real estate agents, in this case, who were owning these Pinterest boards. It's just amazing. So social, you're absolutely right, Ben. That field has become insanely diverse, right? And I really, I'm really torn to say you should focus on this network versus that network. You should focus on the network where you feel the most comfortable, meaning you feel like, hey, you know what? I really get Pinterest, or I really get Facebook, or I really get Twitter, or I really get Google Plus. And I would lean to your strengths as well as where you find your audience, right? So if you start talking to your clients and customers and you ask them, hey, what do you want? And they say, none of them respond with, oh yeah, I use Twitter. Well, great, then you can kind of cross Twitter off the list, even if that happens to be a great resource for you personally. I think the other critical thing to be aware of is to know that there's a direct path in social and an indirect path. So I'll give you an example here. Twitter for many businesses is a path for them to reach influencers. It's a path for them to reach journalists, bloggers, writers, people who own websites, people who can, talk about them and help amplify their messages. Twitter is not a place where they directly interface with people who will be their customers, but it's the place where they interface with the people who influence their customers. And this is something that can be really hard for folks, especially, I've found a lot of small business marketers struggle with the fact that an audience, their target audience might not be on a social network, and yet that social network can still be hugely valuable to influence their audience through an indirect means. So I think that's another thing you have to weigh in the balance here. And then when it comes to social success, it's all about being useful, interesting, and non-obvious. I find that a lot of folks, when they get onto social networks, they start trying to share content or share their personal experiences and lives, and both of those things can be good, right? There's a lot of best practices around social, around what you should share, and being visual, choosing great images, and being a regular contributor, being someone who engages with others. But if the stuff you're sharing is boring, or not even boring, but it's useful, but it's obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let me write up the top 10 tips for someone who's shopping for a new home, and I'll publish that to all my social networks, and now I'm doing some content marketing, I'm doing some social media. Well, okay, but if those tips are the same ones that I get on every site, or the ones that I intuitively already know, when I start reading, the first 5-10 people who click on that link, none of them share it, none of them think, oh man, this is something special. This is something I couldn't find anywhere else. How come no one's ever told me this before? Well,
so they should do something like how to see when a house is falling apart, and then once they get into the article, give them tips on how to figure out if it is falling apart or if it's a bad house for them to buy or live in currently. Kind of make it a more
so
fun.
I'll be honest. I've never purchased a home. I've been renting my whole life, and so
You're gonna have 18,000 agents call you.
I know, right? I don't actually know what those questions are, but I do have one piece of advice, which is real estate agents, in my experience, this part should be easy. You have conversations with real people all day long. Some of those conversations, how human beings get when they're really interested in what you're saying, their eyes light up, they don't lose eye contact with you, they stop whatever they're doing, they're not wandering around or fidgeting or anything, they just look at you and they're fascinated, right? And their eyes get big and they sort of connect with you. What are those conversations? If you can remember what they are and why they were powerful and why that whatever information you were giving them or whatever the subject was, that is the type of content that I've found that really resonates on the web. When I do my blog posts, the ones that get tens of thousands of visits instead of a few hundred or a couple thousand visits are almost always the ones where I've had an in-person conversation with someone or with several someones, and I've had that eyes light up moment. So
yeah, for sure.
I would try and translate that, and I don't want to try and predict what that's going to be in real estate, but I bet you guys know.
Yeah. So one last thing in social. I see that a lot of people can kind of, I don't want to say cheat, but that's what I think, cheat their way to the top of search engine rankings by leveraging boards or other social accounts, or maybe an agent. It's important then when somebody searches for their name, they find that individual agent, not some porn star or criminal in another area that happens to have the
Okay,
same
right, sure.
same exact name. How do we leverage these social networks to show up in the search engine rankings?
So the nice thing about social accounts, especially when you're talking about ranking for your name or ranking for your business name, is if you set up a business account and a personal account on each of these networks, and you do even moderate levels of engagement, right? Just you sort of say, hey, I'm going to set aside a few weeks where um, 30 minutes a day in the morning before I, get in my car or whatever, I'm going to engage on these social networks. I'm going to find good people to follow. I'm going to comment on their stuff. I'm going to reshare what they're doing. I'm going to, build up some interest of my own. That can hugely help you in the search results because social profiles that have real engagement tend to rank very well for names and business names. So, you search for Moz, you're going to find our Twitter account, our Facebook page, our LinkedIn. You search for Rand Fish.
Do we lose you? Everybody on the call, can you still hear me? Well, Rand, is there anybody out there? Out there in the cold, getting lonely, getting old. Rand, where are you? Oh, you're back.
No,
Rand, are you back?
That's Eric.
Eric. Eric, so till Rand gets back, let's talk about cheating the search engines with social websites. Any thoughts, Eric?
Well, with social, um, I'm seeing, what we're doing with some of your stuff.
For instance?
For instance, for Brio Realty.
Yeah.
.com. So basically, when we're sharing some of our listings, we're getting lots of traffic and actually getting some really good leads out of it.
And where are we sharing our listings at on these social sites?
On Facebook and Twitter. So anytime we're getting a new listing, we're throwing some of them up on Twitter. And what that actually does for you, it's actually like claiming that listing as yours in Google's eyes. So you're going to get more traction off of it. Twitter actually, basically, when you tweet, it will index your listing right away, and that's how Google actually finds news and what's happening, and that's why when you search for anything on the web, you can have stuff indexed right away as it's happening. It's all because of Twitter, because that's where people are engaging and talking.
You did a lot of, I'm having a lot of questions from the audience about paid advertising, and you've done a lot of paid advertising stuff for us to generate like seller leads. Where were you getting those from, and how much was it costing you?
The best way to get the seller leads I found was when you posted on Facebook and boosted the post, and basically
what was it costing us per lead for that?
Okay, so I was doing posts for 20, and I was targeting actual audience to people that were buying, that in my eyes were buying or selling, and I was getting, for $20, I was getting 20 seller leads.
Hello?
For $20.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rand, you're back.
My web
Laptop
connection.
died?
Yeah, died for a second. Sorry about that. All good.
Right. Eric, we'll come back to that question because I want to talk about what we got those leads for and what the cost was when Rand's done. Rand,
Okay.
let's talk about content and good
Sure.
content. And along with that, a bunch of people in here are asking about keyword tools and what to write about, or where can we figure out what people in our world are actually interested in or thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few things. Google's AdWords tool is still kind of the standard to discover keywords around your area. Just be aware that Google AdWords doesn't often won't show you non-commercial search terms, right? So they might say, oh, homes for sale, Seattle, that's a clearly commercial search term. We're going to show you the volume for that, all that kind of stuff. But there might be a lot of people searching for, um, uh, you know, how to redesign a new home. That's a not a great example, but they might search that, and Google says, oh, that's actually not a very commercial search term. People don't tend to buy directly from that search term. Therefore, we're not going to show it inside AdWords unless you search for exactly that phrase. We won't suggest it alongside others, even if it's a popular term. And so you just have to be aware of the fact that AdWords is hiding a lot of those non-commercial search terms, which may actually, in the long run, be great traffic for you in terms of growing your brand and building up some content marketing and doing content marketing towards. In fact, a lot of great content marketing is done ahead of the actual buying transaction, right? If the first time someone visits your website is right when they're ready to buy a house, that might not be nearly as valuable as if they've also found a bunch of tips and details on what to look for in houses and how to choose a real estate agent and what kind of decor and what architecture and how to look for problems in homes, whatever. All that content stuff that's before you actually make a transaction is what content marketing is all about. It's tough to do, though. It's very tough to stand out, especially in the field of real estate. Lots of people doing content marketing. I mean, Zillow has an insanely big team that does content marketing. It's very, very powerful. They build tools. They have web developers to do this. So it's tough to compete. But in terms of...
One of your Whiteboard Fridays you did the other day,
yeah,
you were talking about not letting another blog post or another page or another piece of content steal away from your main site?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure that's exactly the message that I intended to send, but it is the case
that... It was poorly interpreted by me, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no.
Fix
sure.
it for me.
So basically, right, someone's searching for a particular keyword that's very transaction-based, and you have a great kind of landing page that converts that person. This is likely less applicable in real estate than in other fields, but there may be some crossover. And basically, what you don't want to do is have a bunch of, essentially what I'd call content-heavy but not conversion-focused pages that overtake or overwhelm that conversion-focused page's presence in the search results. For many lead attraction websites, this can be a problem as they start building up, a blog or an article section or that kind of thing. To answer the end of your last question, by the way, there's 2 keyword research tools that I really like and do recommend outside of just using AdWords. Those are SEMrush, which is a little advanced, and then one that's really simple and free called keywordtool.io, which will essentially show you all the Google Suggest keywords. That's a great one.
And Emily will text that out to all of you guys on the chat box right away. So this content, social, local, all 3 of these things combined are about showing up in the search engines, or at least being found, so that we can generate some traffic to the site that we hope helps consumers and helps us do some business. The SEO has changed a lot from where it was when you and I first started getting into this.
Heck yeah.
What's going on now, and what's working, and how do these 3 other topics relate to that?
Well, so if SEO is your ultimate goal, I do think that there's ways local is essentially, a form of SEO, but there's definitely ways you can leverage social and content to help your rankings. And in fact, that's kind of the direction that SEO has gone in. If we're talking 10 years ago, right, you hammer away at a few signals, right? Links, keywords, a little bit of technical SEO, right, getting your sort of crawl structure right, and man, that's basically all you need to do to rank. And so all SEO was, hey, what's the optimal format for keywords these days? What are the keywords people are searching for? And how do I get more links? More links from more places that Google isn't going to catch and penalize. And nowadays, Google's so sophisticated with their link analysis and they're so sophisticated with their keyword and content analysis that as long as you know kind of broadly what the keywords are that people are searching for, you can, you can do a great job of keyword targeting very simply. And if you want to, if you want to read up a little on that, you can check out. I did a post on-page SEO, a visual guide to on-page SEO that's on Moz. That's a pretty good resource for that. And then you really want your content to sing for your visitors, right? If they love it, if they're engaging with it, Google will reward you. And the only caveat to that is you might make content that works terrifically for your customers, but it doesn't work very well for influencers, right? People who share it on social networks, people who email their friends, people who write about it other places, press, journalists, bloggers, all that kind of stuff. And if somebody else in your field is doing a great job of earning those links and mentions, they might actually outrank you even if you're serving your core customer better. This is one of Google's inherent weaknesses. They can't say, this real estate agent does a better job serving their customers than this one over here. What they can say is, this real estate agent gets more press, more links, more mentions, more shares than this one over here. They appear to be more popular. They seem equally relevant, right? They're all targeting this kind of the same keywords. They have content that we can interpret as similar. Therefore, rank the most popular one higher. And that can be a pretty frustrating for a lot of small business owners. I think it's just something you have to accept about Google's bias.
I have some friends on the call. One of my friends is Lori Ballin. She's kind of an internet expert for real estate and a friend of mine.
Awesome.
She's asking a couple of technical questions that I thought I'd just throw out there. And she says, is it necessary to submit a sitemap to Google anymore?
Not necessary. You can if you want. If you have a big, complex site, I would do it. If not, I probably wouldn't worry about it.
Do you think there's a internal linking is still super important?
It depends on what you mean by that. Internal linking is important in that you need to make sure that your visitors can easily access all the pages that they would want to get to. If you're talking about, sculpting PageRank and sort of passing the right links with the right anchor text internally, almost certainly not. We've done a bunch of testing with internal links recently and have seen almost no benefit from, the kind of optimization that you might imagine, right? Renaming internal anchor text links and limiting the flow of PageRank so your popular pages only link to a few other pages that you want to rank well. That seems to do nothing anymore.
One of my staff members who's just amazing. Her name is Brooke, and she would give her left arm to get a tour of your office. By the way,
anytime.
Awesome. I just gotta,
just email me.
Awesome.
Done.
She's gonna love you. Okay. She asks questions because she's read some of your stuff and heard you speak at an event about testing, and explain how you at your company has used testing to improve your knowledge, and maybe how it might be applicable to us as real estate professionals.
Sure. So I think for us, running tests that oftentimes yield meaningless results or fail is actually worthwhile for the few times that a test does end up working, and that's because of the field that we're in, right? Testing for us is more like content marketing. We're learning about how search engines work. We're learning that, for example, one of the things we learned in tests recently is that since some of the local updates that Google made end of last year, clicking on local listings, like for example, I go to a conference, I'm speaking in front of an audience of a few hundred people, and I tell them, hey, let's all search for, wedding dresses Seattle, and we're all going to click on this one particular local result and see if that raises its rankings. And sure enough, 30 minutes later, after a few hundred of us have done that from different IP addresses because we're all on our mobile phones, not on the conference Wi-Fi, sure enough, rankings go up. That page was ranking #1, and I repeated that test a few times. So that's fascinating, right? Fascinating to know that people searching for something and then clicking on your store could actually, change the results, at least for a while. Lasted maybe a week. So that's cool, but I don't know that if I were a a real estate agent, right, that I would tell you, hey, you should go out and do a bunch of SEO testing, right? Because it's for every one test like that worked, there were dozens, if not 100 hours poured into tests that did nothing. Right, testing the internal link thing. Okay, we discovered that didn't seem to do much. We tested anchor text. That seems to work the same as it always did. We tested, links higher up in code versus lower down. Looks like almost negligible. Maybe there's a tiny benefit to being higher up. Just, really little stuff that's not actually going to help you to better serve your customers or attract more customers, and is incredibly time consuming. So I think what I would do as a real estate agent is I would test different methods of my own business, right? I would test the different social networks. Which one resonates? Which one do I get traffic from? I would test different kinds of content. Does blog content work? Does visual content work for me? What is it that works well? And I would test different methods of selling, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'd try this one week, I try that. I don't even know what the different methods of selling are, but that's what I try. And so, yeah, it's not, I'm not saying don't test, but I'm not sure I would urge you to do a bunch of complex SEO tests.
What's the next event that you're going to be at or that you're hosting that we could go to and just have our brains explode from understanding this at a higher, more detailed level?
Yeah, actually, there's an event called Local Up that's happening actually here in Seattle at the Moz offices in, I believe it's February. I think it's like February 7th. But if you look for that Local Up, it's David Mim and Erica from our team are doing the programming for it. It's a bunch of really the best and brightest in the SEO field, including some folks actually from Google who are going to come talk. So I think that's probably the most relevant and best event that I would recommend. And then the other one, if you're in Portland, Oregon, is SearchFest. That's a really good one. I believe SMX has a local series, but I don't know if they've announced dates for it in 2015 yet.
What's the one piece of advice you'd give a local business owner, real estate or not?
Be exceptional. And I don't mean be really, really good. I mean, if everybody else is doing something one way, be the exception to the rule. That has worked wonders for me over the years.
Rand, I know that you have an appointment and you're gracious with your time. I also know that I couldn't pay you to be here, number one, because I can't afford you, but number two, because you're so good and great. And I can't promote your stuff other than telling everybody to go to Moz. What I am going to do, I saw that a passion of yours was Seattle Children's Hospital. I'm going to give $1,000 to
Oh my gosh.
today on behalf of your name.
Ben, that is
coming to the
incredible.
call today. And
You rock,
Rand, go to your next meeting. Have a good day. I'm going to bring Eric back on the call, and we are going to get into the real estate-ish stuff. Thanks, Rand.
All right. Take care of yourself, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, Eric, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, for sure. So back when we were doing some of that testing for listing leads, so you said you put $20 towards promoting a post on Facebook where we were sending them to one of our valuation sites, and what was our results? Do you remember?
Yeah, for $20 I was able to get 22 leads for $20. Yeah.
Simply promoting a post.
Just by boosting a post, yeah. But you gotta make sure you target it to the right people. You don't want to be boosting it to the 18-year-old crowd, right? You got to make sure that you target it.
You're going to adjust the demographics to a certain age group, and you want it to be local around where you're at, etc.
Yes.
So when you and I started working on websites, see, Eric was at a competitive company in town for a long time, and him and I were both working on things at about the same time, and we were trying to figure out SEO. And the way that you and me did SEO, from 2005 to, 2010 when you and I got into business together, it's changed a lot. So what are some new trends in search engine optimization or getting content to be found that you think we should know about?
Well, basically,
citations or something like that.
Okay, so basically everything's heavy into content and social media. Back in 2005, up till about 3 years ago, when one of the newer algorithms rolled out, you had to build a bunch of links, and that made it able for websites to rank that necessarily didn't have great content. So Google now actually looks more in depth of what you're talking about versus how many pages or how many people are linked to you.
So
So
all those links that you and I spent 7 years building is actually, it's kind of screwing us right now.
yes,
We
it
have to
is.
come up with a whole new approach, including taking all those links down. What are we doing now to build SEO?
Well, for one, don't build any links. Don't try to build any links. Basically, create good content and people will link to you naturally. And what you kind of want to do is kind of what Rand is saying there with this person's getting more mentions, this person's more active on the social world. So this agent must be popular. So that's how Google looks at agents and activity. They look at that social aspect and they rank you accordingly.
I don't know if I can explain citations correctly. Can you explain to us kind of what a citation is?
Okay, a citation is a NAP, and basically it's a name, address, phone number of your business. It's a mention.
It's called a NAP, name,
It's called a
address,
NAP.
and phone number of your
Yeah.
business.
So what's heavy into local SEO, what he's talking about, and local SEO will give you the ability to type in condos for sale, and wherever you're at, like whatever city you're in, your website will pull up, right? Even if like locally. So
So where am I gonna put my NAP at?
okay, so for naps, what you're gonna want to do is put them on like Yelp, and there's services actually that can help you build naps. I use
White Spark. Okay.
Whitespark, and you can basically look at competitors on how many naps or mentions another business has, and kind of gauge to see that like how many you need. So some of our competitors in the area, they have like 100 or 150 mentions, right? So essentially, to beat them, you just need more.
So instead of going out there and us building links, we want to go out there and find places where we could put our NAP, our business name, our address, and our phone number that Google could verify from different places that those NAPs were all the same.
Yep,
And in the end, they would tie that to the website that we have. So we aren't even putting
exactly.
our website address in most of those things. So what are some things besides Yelp where we would create NAPs at? Can you think of a few?
Okay, so basically, there's a really important fact to this. All of them have to match. They have to be
Identically,
consistent,
to the T.
identically, to the T, down to the phone number, even down to the zip code. You can't have two zip codes. So every NAP needs to be the same everywhere. And how Google actually associates it with your website is through your Google Plus profile. So you don't need to put your website and your address in there. The the mentions of itself are the new links. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, is that whitespark.ca?
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, whitespark.ca.
You've done a lot of work with IDX websites, I know, because we've generated a lot of leads together from the work you've done. Where are those, uh, tell us, how are IDX websites, how can we use them to generate more business or to create SEO? Like kind of how you did on the brio.com website we built.
Well, I'd say the easiest and the fastest way to get some leads is to post something really good on Facebook, something of value. I like to do foreclosures because everybody likes foreclosures, and then you boost that post for $20 with your IDX feed, right? So, for example, we would do something like uh, check out the deals in Bellingham of all the hot foreclosures. I put together a list for you, and then you boost that. Sometimes you can boost them for $20, and I was able to get leads for around $2 or $3 per lead that way.
Wow, that's cheap. Now, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking about some of the things we've worked on lately. Talk about the local pages that we created on Brio Realty, the content that you created,
Which part are you talking about?
all the
The
way
local
down to
land?
the
Okay, so the
local
landing
stuff.
pages. Oh, so basically what we did there, we just we're incorporating the like each one of the offices that we have all the way down the line. We incorporated the local SEO into that with the landing pages. So each address has its own NAP, right? So our Bellingham office has the Bellingham NAPs that I'm pushing out, and then Burlington, our Burlington office has a different NAPs. So we're calling it Brio Realty Burlington, right? And they all have different phone numbers. So we incorporate that with our landing pages. So what that actually does is if you're in Everett and you type in condos, it's not going to show up for if you're over in Atlanta and you type in condos, it's going to pull up what's locally over there. But if you're in Everett on your phone or on your computer, it's going to pick up your IP address and it's going to pull up your website. And you don't even have to put Everett anymore, right? Because it already knows, like Google's so smart, it already knows what your page is about if you structure it properly, right? So you don't even need to put Everett anymore.
Because it knows based on the location of our phone.
Yeah.
That's freaky.
Yeah. Yeah, and go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead. Keep going. So let me ask you a question, because we built that website, Brio Realty, and you made neighborhoods all the way down to the smallest neighborhood we could think of, and we had college kids write content on each one of those pages for us.
Yeah,
Why did we choose Real Geeks to do that, and then why did you build it out so granular?
okay, so we've spent a lot of time on that one. We have about 6 months into it. Um, I built it like that because what Google really likes is stuff to look as natural as possible. So the edge that we're going to get off that one is we hand wrote all the meta tags and hand wrote all the content. So in Google's eyes, this isn't a mass-produced website like Zillow or any of those other sites
So
that are dynamically created.
We'd have better chances of showing up
Yeah.
hyper local because the content was original.
Yeah, because the content is unique and different, and all of my titles are not the same.
Let's assume that every single person on the call, the 1,000 agents that are still here, uh, had a Real Geeks IDX website, or at least an IDX website where they could add an individual page with listings on there. What would you tell them to do on just that one page?
What would I tell them to do with one page, on that one page?
Okay. Just like for an example, if they're just going to build one, what would they put on there?
Well, what we've been doing with Real Geeks is you just put, 4 or 5 of the listings in that city or neighborhood, right? So they have something to click on, because you want if you have your forced registration right off the first click, right? When you click on those, your click-through rate or your bounce rate will be off, because some people will be turned off by that and they'll bounce out of the site. So the way he has his set up with having those listings on the site, you're actually able to improve the bounce rate, which also improves the SEO. So to answer your question,
let's go back a second. What is bounce rate?
Okay, so bounce rate is when somebody clicks into your website and then immediately hits the back button. So if you've noticed that when you're out there, a lot of the websites that rank on the first page don't have forced registration, right? Because their bounce rates are a little bit. They're
I mean, somebody came to the website and instead of looking at another page, they left.
Yeah, right. Because a lot of our real estate sites, they have, forced registration on the first click, right? So that create makes it have a higher bounce rate. The higher the bounce rate, the less your page rank. So with his system, it improves the bounce rate because people can still click on those listings and it doesn't immediately force them to register. And if they want more listings, they can just go right into the search box, right? Because you want to get them to go to another page.
We had a guy just text in, Carl. He said, when do you have users register? On my website, I have them register after they looked at the second property, not the first one. So they're into the site for a couple clicks before they actually leave. Somebody else asked, what is a good bounce rate? What's the number we're looking for, Eric?
Okay, so for the first question, can you repeat?
I want to know, what is a good bounce rate?
Okay, so a good bounce rate, you're looking at around 30 to 40% is like a really good bounce rate.
So you're keeping 60% of the people on your site and 30% are leaving.
Exactly, and then the higher the bounce rate, like I'm seeing sites up there in the 60 and stuff, they're not really doing as well in the rankings.
They don't do as well in the search engines. That's why things like Tiger Leads don't work for SEO, because you come there and the only thing you can do is register or not. So 9 out of 10 people leave, so they have a 90% bounce rate.
So they bounce rate out of it, and it's really important to the eyes of Google because it tells them a lot that when somebody types in Bellingham real estate, for example, and they click into the website and they bounce out real quick, Google goes, oh, this website must not be about Bellingham real estate. So let's throw it back a few pages, right?
Yep. So we're at our 10 o'clock time limit, Eric. What would be the one thing you would tell people in the audience to do if they wanted to start getting some more leads for free online through search engines?
I would say the number one most powerful thing you can do is take your IDX, post a list of the foreclosures and boost it, or so something of value. I'm saying that's the money. That's the hot ticket right there, because that's
how you get leads for the cheapest. I got another friend on the call. Her name's Amy, and she does a lot of Facebook ads. And Amy, type into the chat box if you can. I don't know what your cost per lead is, but it's pretty cheap. Looks like it's under $2. So, guys, thank you for being on the call. We will send you out the links and information from Rand's website, some tools that Eric Badgley mentioned, and some tools that Rand mentioned. And I'll see you guys on the next call, which we will announce shortly. Less geeky, more get your button gear for next year, coming up in the next week or two. So, Eric, thanks for being on the call. Your Twitter handle is Eric Badgley, right? At Eric Badgley.
Yeah.
Emily, make sure you send that out to everybody. Everybody else.